Hi, everyone. I'm Rena Nine, thank you for joining us. We began with a major data breach carried out by a firm that worked with President Trump's campaign team. The Guardian is reporting that Cambridge Analytica used personal information from the profiles of millions of U.S. voters without permission. A whistleblower says that information was used to build a powerful software program to predict and influence choices at the ballot box. The company, which was headed by, at the time, by former Trump advisor Steve Bannon, has since been suspended from Facebook. The data breach is reportedly the largest in the social network's history. David Carroll is an associate professor of media design at the Parsons School. David filed a claim against Cambridge Analytica after he found out that it collected data on him. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. I can't get enough of this story. I want to ask you, when did you first sort of realize that something was wrong here?
Well, we were following the practices of all the campaigns in 2016, even starting in the primaries. So looking at the Cruz campaign and in particular its use of this company, Cambridge Analytica. And then there was lots of coverage about their practices and how they were doing things that were innovative. And then we learned that the company is based in the United Kingdom, actually, and so that allowed us to ask for our data. So I asked for my data back in January of last year.
So you asked in January. When did you get it, and what did you get?
The data finally arrived in March, so about a year ago, and it had information about my voter registration, information about the results in my district, and then it had a political model of my beliefs and a sort of prediction of my participation. And that's when I got in touch with lawyers in Britain.
And this is what we're seeing is actually your model of what, and was it true, would you say? Accurate, pretty spot on, close?
It's hard to assess it, so that's part of the legal action, is we need more information even to understand it, and the legal experts that are working for us believe that it's not a complete disclosure, and that's the main problem. Is the company has said it has 4,000 to 5,000 points of data on every registered voter in the United States. That's certainly much less than that. And then now we know from this news via The Guardian and the New York Times that the amount of data collected was really astonishing. So the fight is about give us back our data.
You're a data nerd. You call yourself a data nerd. You study this very thoroughly. Should Americans be mad that you, as an American citizen, had to go to Britain to be able to get access to your data?
It shows how we don't have adequate privacy laws in the United States. That it's just the coincidence or the weirdness that our data was processed in Europe, where they have strong protections that we need in the United States. So if anything, this is a wake-up call that we need equal rights to our friends across the Atlantic.
Part of the way that Cambridge Analytica was able to get this information was they had folks go to this third-party app to put in their information, and that unwittingly allowed them also access to some of their friends' information. It was this wider net. Looking at this now, is Facebook liable, do you believe? Was this a data breach? Are they responsible?
They claim to protect our privacy as their business model. And if they did let data get collected in an illicit manner and didn't adequately protect it when they learned about how it was used, and they didn't adequately verify, then yes, they are responsible. That's the deal they make with us, that they protect our data in order for us to use the service. And if they haven't, it's a huge problem.
You know, one of the members who worked for Cambridge Analytica, a man named Christopher Wylie, came forward and said that this Cambridge Analytica was a full-service propaganda machine. It controls streams of information around your opponent, so you control the battle streams. What did this influence? I mean, can you officially say that this definitely influenced the U.S. elections, Brexit?
Well, we can't say for sure, but we can know that the scale of it was unprecedented. And so it's about getting answers and transparency about how it actually worked. And the idea is, you know, the same technologies that were used to sell ski vacations were used to target people for political messages. And so we just don't understand exactly how it worked. So that's why we're asking for answers, because if we can figure out how it worked, we can figure out how this is going to continue in the future.
And you have now filed a lawsuit. Tell me about that. It was just yesterday on Friday.
That's right. So we worked with our legal team in the United Kingdom to file in British court under what they call the Data Protection Act. And we're asking for more disclosure because we believe that the data that they provided is not sufficient.
And we also know now that the Trump campaign, their new campaign manager for 2020, Brad Prescott, was somebody who worked very closely with Cambridge Analytica. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, it would be normal for a data analytics company to work closely in this way, and we are trying to figure out just how the data was used. So, for example, was Cambridge Analytica data uploaded into Facebook, and was that how people were targeted by name? So this idea that your voter registration was enriched with all your data, and then they used that to retarget you on Facebook, and how did that affect the messages that you saw? And how did that affect your opinion of candidates? We need to figure this out.
There are members of Congress, Professor, who are saying we're not going to let this be swept under the rug. We're going to do something about it. But is the cat out of the bag at this point? Is there any way to fix this?
Well, there are active investigations still ongoing, so there's still lots more to come. The regulator of Cambridge Analytica in Britain is called the Information Commissioner's Office, and they have a pending report. So there's still so much more news to unravel here. This is just the beginning. So I think we need to get the complete picture first, and then we'll know how to respond. And some of it is going to be just figuring out how this worked and what can we do to recapture control of our data.
How do you explain to Americans how is it possible in this day and age that in the United States of America, citizens don't have access to who has their data?
It's just the necessity to have a comprehensive view of what data privacy is in the United States. We have sort of vertical ideas, like your data is protected through your medical provider, and as a professor, student data is protected by a law, but we don't have a general law to protect our data across all situations, like they have in Europe. So that's why we kind of need to look to Europe at how they've solved this problem.
If I today delete my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram account, am I completely free of anybody taking my data at this point?
No, you're just reducing some of the ways that data can be collected. So it is a matter of figuring out how you can potentially limit the way that your data is collected, but also to fight for your rights because it's your property. It's who you are.
What would you say? What kind of data do people have on us that we just don't even know at this point?
It's a matter of, our credit card swipes, the websites we visit, the television we watch, all is reconnected back to our identity. And so all of our consumer behavior is used to target us for ads, and those ads can be political in nature.
So as someone who watches this very closely, what are you going to be looking for in the coming months?
Well, we're going to be seeing if we can get the answers that we're seeking from the company. We're going to be looking at the government and regulators in Britain and in Washington, D.C., because the story is all connected. And it's unfortunate that the House Intelligence Committee shut down its investigation because it hadn't finished looking into Cambridge Analytica. But at least we have other people in D.C. still working on it.
Professor David Carroll, thank you very much for joining us on a very important topic.